We're flying high with Crack Cloud. The Canadian collective has just released their third album, titled Red Mile, recorded at Joshua Tree in the middle of the Mojave Desert. Here are Bryce, Aleem, and founding member Zach to explain how a band that he describes as grounded seems to be free-falling in this video.
We ended up filming our friend Beck freediving around that time, and it just worked out. It made sense. It made sense for us as a bookend, so to speak, tying up our experience in the Mojave. And the song itself, I think, was something that I found really compelling as a sort of Frankenstein that came out of those sessions. Completely, we didn't predict it. There was no anticipation or like familiarity for like what that song would amount to. It was like truly just like something that was birthed in the desert, and so it just felt true to those sessions and the time that we spent.
Right. So you mentioned desert. So my understanding is you recorded out at Joshua Tree, partially in Calgary. So what brought the decision to record out there? What was it that drove you out there or brought you to that point?
I would say I convinced these guys to come on out. I've been in California for a minute.
Yeah,
that's where my wife's family is from. But we relocated to Joshua Tree sort of with the intention of setting up a creative space, musical space. And it just, I mean, I've been working with Crack Cloud for a few years, and it just felt natural, like a natural evolution of the group, and just following the breadcrumb trail and just seeing where it leads. And these guys came down, and yeah, it definitely has a sort of elemental psychological effect out here. And so it was fun just immersing ourselves and diving into that.
Yeah, because it's a place steeped in all sorts of musical legends going back to the 60s and up till the desert, Queens of the Stone Age and all those folks. So is that something that you guys were aware of when you were recording there?
I mean, I'm slightly aware of the legacy. I mean, you go back to Graham Parsons, or even prior to that, Frank Sinatra and the Rat Pack used to come out here. So, I mean, there's a certain Americana that you're working with, but I don't think we had any intention of a direct association with any prior projects. I think it was more of a personal quest,
right?
Than perhaps like a referential pop culture trip.
Right.
Though I wonder if there was some meta that preceded us as far as why some of these artists sought out the desert as a sort of reprieve. I would say that was very much kind of even just subliminally what drew us out there, just to have that kind of liminal space where we could check out and get more in tune with how we were feeling about culture and about ourselves and about the project. And so maybe in that sense, there's some connection with that lineage that is just unavoidable.
Right. So how were you feeling about this project? Did you guys have conversations leading up to the sessions, or was there, what did you talk about what you tried to achieve with this record?
I'd say that, we are always bouncing whatever comes into our minds off each other, whether it's through a text or through discussion or, Socratic, whatever. But I think that this record really encapsulates who we were at that period in time and what we shared together within, I think, microcosmically within the group itself and the history of the group, and, on a macro level, embracing all forms of art, I think, that we just really care about.
Right. Now you have a song called "The Medium," and I think in the video there was something about the medium as the message. And if I'm not mistaken, from my days in the university, Marshall McLuhan was the gentleman who kind of coined that phrase. Is that something that you guys are familiar with?
Yeah, we've been really inspired by McLuhan's theories for some time now, and it felt really relevant to just kind of the whole epistemological journey that even I've just been internalizing as an artist and as just like someone that interfaces with art, and yeah, absolutely vital to just like how we've been interpreting ourselves and our own output. We also heard from McLuhan's grandson like 2 days ago, and that was a trip, just to have that degree of separation. I don't know how we caught the medium, but felt full circle to have that connection.
That's pretty cool. I mean, you must not have seen that coming. So
No.
what is it about that connects with you guys, though? What about that message, so to speak?
I mean, just go ahead, Zach.
Oh, just rock music in 2024, and what the medium, what the implications of the medium even entail. Right now, especially with a paradigm shift like social media, there's just a lot of minutia that extends beyond, you know, the music or the like. There's more to the focal point than what you immediately are kind of absorbing. And I feel like there's just there's this kind of fun zeitgeist to it all that we wanted to lean into, even just like Crack Cloud as a mythology, the sort of legacy that we've established for ourselves, however insular that is. I mean, we've existed for 9 years, and I think that there's a really strong, fantastical, turbulent narrative attached to the group, and what that means to other people is separate from what that means or what that meant for us. And just the way that we've our relationship to press and media in general has been such a naive, explorative kind of journey. And I think McLuhan's theories just nail a lot of the existentialism on the head for us, just as a generation that feels so outside of history, but also like very much steeped in it and its making.
Right. Yeah. Well, as we're speaking, the U.S. Republican Party is having their big convention at the moment, and of course, all of them that are there are pretty much suspicious of the mainstream media because it doesn't agree with whatever it is that they agree with. And so, what's your journey been like as far as understanding the media based on what you kind of learned over the last few years with Crack Cloud?
I mean,
as far as our relationship to it, and
Yeah.
and how it's well, you know, Crack Cloud started out as a bedroom project 9 years ago, freshly, you know, recovering from addiction, and it was really just a fringe thing for anyone and everyone, a sort of safe space for people to get together and self-actualized through art, and I don't think it really was meant, or I don't think we had any motivation to scale it more than it already was. The opportunity came to travel, and the rest is history. It's just I can't believe 9 years have gone by, and it felt like a responsibility early on just to facilitate a kind of transparency about where we come from, um, and kind of the blemishes that we carry, the skeletons in the closet, and sorry, I'll just mention too, like I'm speaking on behalf of myself. This doesn't necessarily apply to everyone currently involved with the group, but at the
Okay.
time, like there was an idealism to just carrying our freak flag and carving out a space for the ostracized, essentially. And I think ooh, there's something really beautiful about that, but it's also, especially in retrospect, it's ephemeral, and you see these fluctuations in the culture with the punk movement, and like throughout the 20th century, you see these like flickers of spirit, and those moments aren't really meant to be lasting or commodified or marketed. And there was just a juncture where, okay, like I've been almost 9 years sober. I'm in my 30s now. In a lot of ways, I still carry a lot of the trauma of like, rougher, more abrasive days in my past, but for all intents and purposes, like I'm a different person. And it's interesting because like you don't really see those conversations so much. Like you see a lot of romanticism around a lot of like punk figures, or a lot of just iconoclastic movements, and like there's something immortal about that. There's something immortal about Sid Vicious, but what happens if you don't overdose and die? What happens if you continue to live and you live in a suburban house with two dogs? Um, and
Become Iggy
so there
Pop.
just yeah, there came a cognitive dissonance, I think, where it's like it felt like there was this expectation to maintain a certain like vigor and a certain like pretension, frankly, for this this narrative that was very true in the beginning, but yeah, like life goes on, and we've basically adapted the group to be more of a reflection of just the process ongoing. And so I guess, like, to answer your question, like as far as media goes, I mean, media is always going to sensationalize whatever content will resonate most immediately with the culture and with people, and it's based on clicks and analytics, and so uh, navigating that, especially just like with a kind of a lack of education, I think has like manifested in a really peculiar story
Okay.
that I'm sure like not many people are even aware of, but just like being kind of central to it. It's really interesting, like to step outside of it and see how it's mutated and what it means to people. And um, yeah, in that way, the medium uh, is just a really interesting proposition.
Okay. Do you guys have anything to add to that?
Yeah, I would just say that in terms of thinking of the medium and where we're at in the present moment, I think we, as a group, and through some of these ideas, have been thinking about kind of this age of postmodernism and how to kind of pick up the pieces when everything is so blasted out. And in a sense, that's, I think, where sincerity comes in, because within postmodernism, there's this like endless cycle of cynicism and irony. that is kind of hard to escape. And so by just leaning into a certain rawness and realness with this group, and just, documenting this is where we're at, no frills, in a sincere way, and not being tied to previous preconceptions of what the group has been or will be. Just I think sincerity is a powerful mechanism, and that really comes through with this, and the medium as this like reference point of like Canadian, media conceptualism and history within Canadian arts. It definitely feels like a meaningful touchstone that, if we can bring those ideas, Marshall McLuhan's ideas, into the forefront and have other people discover him, and start thinking about their world in that way, I think that's really valuable. And just being sincere with it, and every time you release a new piece of art, you're sort of taking a risk and bearing your soul a little bit.
Yeah.
And I mean, there's risk in it, but also that's the fun part, right?
Now, we got about 7 minutes left before our Zoom runs out. So unless Aleem has anything to say about that, I wanted to ask about the final track of the album, Lost on the Red Mile, which is kind of 8 minutes of, it sounds like an in-studio jam thing, but it's pretty awesome. So I was hoping to hear a little insight about how it came about.
You shrug and say that times are hard as we sit in the park. Then your thoughts, they went somewhere dark, and as your shades, they block the light, your hands, they sweat with pride, and you are high as a kite.
I guess being in that kind of isolated space as musicians in the desert, in the Mojave Desert, you really, I think we really embraced shutting off the overproduction mentality. I think we were, feeling more attached to our instruments as we were playing them. As musicians, right? First and foremost, music fans. And so I think the way that track really, began organically, I think, with Zach proposing this kind of like, this kind of like, sort of like really nice kind of almost like breakbeat sort of style drum beat. I think what happened was we were listening to, Zach was playing some, I don't know if you want to say the specific song, it was a Talk track.
Yeah, it was just from the album Laughing Stock. I think there's so much to mine there. It just philosophically how they suffered to make that album, and it really got us into a state of mind.
I think we just picked a chord progression. We laid it down, Zach on drums, me on guitar, and Bryce on organ. I think we really just we wrote it legitimately on the spot together, and it was severely organic.
It has that kind of energy to it when you listen to it. Yeah,
I'm happy to hear that. I think that was really I think the summation of all the sincerity and this really just using, faith and fate and destiny to our advantage when it comes to living in a world, right, of rock or punk or anything plagued by nihilism or this insecurity, right? The insecurity of, making something that people say, oh, you guys sold out, man. Oh, man, I wish you guys just did Drab Measure over and over again. Felt really good to embrace our musicianship together, I think, in that track.
All righty.
I think
Bryce?
just briefly. Yeah, I think part of it is there's a certain melancholy to that track, which is and a certain spaciousness, and those are kind of new modes for the group as well, or modes that have always been there, perhaps not in the same shape, and so not in the same form. So just bringing in that kind of mindset and letting ourselves explore, and just using our intuition and just being. There's a certain freedom. I think we were just searching for some freedom through the music.
Right. The organs sound great in that track, by the way. All right, so we got just under 3.5 minutes to go. Zach, you had something to say. Do you want to take us out with whatever your thoughts are?
Well, I just wanted to say that there's a kind of peace in the ambiguity of Lost on the Red Mile that I really resonate with when I listen to it. And when we were playing it, I think just the open-endedness of it is a narrative kind of mechanism that I've always really identified with. No definitive kind of ending. And I think that there was something really vital about finishing on that note, just out of respect to how we were feeling in that moment. Just kind of that suspension of reality and just surrendering to the desert, really. I think it just felt like we were honoring what the desert was bringing in. And I don't think there was much more to it than that. And that's pretty new for the group.
Yeah.
To not have that kind of contrivance plaguing our minds when we're composing.
If you enjoyed this episode of the 13th Floor's Music Talk series, please be sure to subscribe to the website or to the YouTube channel. Follow us on Facebook or Instagram and wherever you find your podcasts. There's a whole lot more to discover.